Okay, everyone, we're live here from the National Archives. Now tonight, it's not going to be JK. He's feeling a little bit under the weather, but we are going to have it's all news, the show's all news, but tomorrow night, we thought tomorrow night we're going to have more of the music. So tomorrow night, don't expect a lot of news. It's going to be more of a kind of a fundraiser thing for JK. There's JK.
Not feeling so well, so I'm here to support George. And
So that is the format, and we could even have JK do a breaking news.
No, you know so.
Okay. So all news, and what we're going to do is we're going to kind of show going all the way back. Going all the way back to the first days of this series. We talked about looking at the different actions of the Mujahideen since 1979. And I really believe that this Operation Lodestar, is going to be the key where they all met, where the current conspirators all met. So most people don't know what Operation Lodestar was. It was an operation in Bosnia. And that's what I'm saying. Peter Strzok came into the cabal when he met with Christopher Steele and also Bruce Orr for the first time. So we've talked a lot about what we try to do in this series is look at things from a high level and then keep drilling down till we actually get to the people and the date where they all met and where they all kind of conspired. But if you remember, DynCorp was our early on, we identified DynCorp as this company. It's kind of a CIA cutout. Thank you, Margie, because she was the one who kind of, I knew as soon as I heard Lodestar, I said, that's it. It's going to be when they met. And I didn't even know. I had interviewed one peacekeeper in Bosnia. He was on the German force, the stabilization force. It's called the SFO, the stabilization force. And the way it worked was DynCorp had all these different, there was all these different countries involved, and the British name for their operation was Lodestar. And I believe that's where Christopher Steele met, but they needed to get guns. They needed to get weapons to the Bosnian Mujahideen. Anyway, Mike Flynn in his book, I just read that part of the book where the training manual was Sleepless in Amsterdam. There's your person that knows you in Amsterdam.
She's the one who invited my daughter.
Yeah. JK wants to go to a wedding with his family of five in September the 29th in St. Louis. So anybody knows a big house in St. Louis? I've stayed in St. Louis all these breweries were being retrofitted when they were going through about 95. So about the same time that Bruce Orr, maybe, I don't know if Nellie Orr goes over there, but I'm saying right now that the helicopters that were being flown by our good friend Peter Strzok, meeting Deripaska somewhere. Deripaska's going to be there as well, getting the weapons. I don't know if it's going to be from Azerbaijan. I don't know if it's going to be from Arsenal, Bulgaria. I don't know. I'm guessing it was Arsenal in Bulgaria, but he's getting the weapons close to the border. Strzok is positioning the weapons exactly where the Mujahideen is, the Bosnian Mujahideen, and they are taking Yugoslavia apart. Really, it's a 10-year process. We know it as different conflicts, but really as far as starting in 95 goes, then it goes right into Kosovo, right after Kosovo. And if you remember, he's in the White House. So Peter Strzok is in the White House in 1995. He's also there. I can't remember when the guy got the bullet in the head. Can't remember his name. At the Reagan shooting, Brady. He's at the Brady Award ceremony, standing there. He might have come in as Secret Service or whatever, but I'm saying they all met in 1995. We already have Bruce Orr meeting Christopher Steele in the year 2000 at a crime conference, International Organized Crime Conference in London. So I say it goes back to 1995, this gun running operation. Again, you follow DynCorp in this story. You follow these kind of multinational task forces that were put together You again run it through British intelligence or some other intelligence service that allows you not to. So I'll get to Peter Monk and the yacht club in a second. Peter Monk and Barrick gold. But yes, there was a lot of gold and other resources in the old Yugoslavia. As soon as the old Soviet Union collapses, the carving up of Montenegro is not until '96, I don't think. That's when John McCain goes on the that's when John McCain goes on the yacht with Deripaska. 98, well, right after that, 97 through 99 is Kosovo. Croatia's in there somewhere too. I think Deripaska's there for the whole time. Now remember, Deripaska already has the Queen K, the super yacht, right, in '96. I mean, well, I'm sorry, that was 2006. So with going back with McCain, but it's going to go all the way back to the original days. It's going to be Operation Lodestar. And usually, you know, it's kind of like when everybody meets for the first time, like the gang meets for the first time. And it's like, let's say British intellectuals in the Bloomsbury group outside of the British Museum, right? And there's Virginia Woolf. It's called the Bloomsbury group from then on, you know, even though it may have met in different places around London, from then on, it's the Bloomsbury group, right? And I think that's going to be the same thing with this Lodestar group, this Operation Lodestar group. You've got to get weapons. You've got to get weapons to the Bosnian Mujahideen. You've got to get Mujahideen from Afghanistan to Bosnia. Okay, how are they going to get there? I think it's Oleg Deripaska, you know, flying them there. They got there somehow. I'm not saying Oleg Deripaska flew all the planes, but I'm saying he coordinated that. He was on the other end coordinating getting those people there in order for them to.
So you're getting interruptions.
Yeah. So yeah. No, I don't. So the questions that have come up so far, this is helpful. So these are the subjects. NSA, will there be an NSA whistleblower coming up to Capitol Hill tomorrow? I don't know that to be the case. QAnon, anything specifically about QAnon? Or
They want to know what you think about QAnon.
Oh, QAnon. Okay, I'll get back to that.
And then Peter Monk.
Well, Peter Monk's dead. Peter Monk was, somebody said that's a fantastic question. I don't know.
To Terry Ambrose, I'll look it up. Oh, does NATO control Gladio?
Yeah, so the first, yes. It was a joint planning exercise with NATO. And again, I went to the headquarters, which is called SHAPE, S-H-A-P-E. It's in Mons, M-O-N-S, France. I went to the place where I believe the British Officers Club, where they all met for the first time. It was Gladio.
In case they didn't hear me say, NATO does control Gladio.
NATO was the key body in planning the Gladio operations. And what Gladio is rather than saying, hey, we're going to bring in a whole bunch of soldiers into Russian-controlled countries like Yugoslavia, that we don't, that we know we're undermanned, and we're not going to march in with our flags and then be mowed down by machine guns. We're actually going to be undercover, and it's going to be a person who's the person who fixes the piano and so forth. And we're going to go away 2 years, every 2 weeks a year, and go fishing. Right? We're all going to go on a fishing trip. There's buffering now? Is there buffering? Do you see buffering?
I don't see buffering on Mont.
Yeah, I don't.
There's lots of buffering, not with Mont.
Yeah, I don't see the buffering here. So anyway, thank you for the. So Gladio is this surreptitious idea that you put people in key government posts, judicial, legislative, executive positions. The most important thing is getting into the police forces, right? Getting intelligence into the police forces. And that's what Gladio is. Then when you get to a break point, or a point where you have most of the army under your control, so that the army won't respond, they know the coup is coming and the army will stand down, then you have other people over in the news business that are going to put out favorable news that, hey, you know, like when they tried to overthrow Erdogan, you know, you're going to say, well, he's trying to leave the country. He's on this plane. he dresses a woman. He's trying to get out of the country. You know, you want to use these psychological operations to have everybody go, well, I guess that's it. It's over with. Here's the new junta. Here are the new freedom fighters that just took over the country, and now you're supposed to be really happy about it. And that was Gladio, the Gladio operation. Run out of Rome. It was.
Is there a Gladio too?
Yes.
A lot of buffering people are saying. I'm not getting it, but others are.
Others are.
Buffering
Okay.
in Australia, someone said.
Oh, buffering in Australia. Well, that's
Welcome
a long way.
aboard.
It's a long way down there, and I was trying to remember our guy who was drinking in London with George Papadopoulos from our Sir. What's his name? The spy guy with 20 years. He's given. I'm for all of a sudden I can't remember his name right now. So the bottom line is there was these Gladio is basically just a way of infiltrating until you get control of the key political posts and the police. Then you have a few demonstrators go out, bang some drums, say the current president has to go, and then all of a sudden you do your coup. You know, you have your special forces come in and take the guy out or whatever. No, it wasn't Dearlove. It was the guy from Australia. I can't remember his name right now. Downer. I should remember because it's down under. Downer is down under. So, yeah, Alexander Downer. So Gladio B was the operation was for Central Asia. Same idea. Going to take the Mujahideen that we've trained, okay, and a lot of we take the idea of infiltration, right? A lot of schools. I mean, sometimes these can be 20-year programs where you just infiltrate the schools, and you bring in a lot of Turkish teachers, for instance. This is what they did in a lot of the countries of the old Soviet Union. They are the ones that coordinate the bringing in the warriors, if you will, the gladiators, if you will, and then they do the revolution. Once they do the revolution, you're kind of good to go, because then you get and you don't have to take over the whole country a lot of times. A lot of times
John Goss Downer. John G-O-S-S-E Downer. Is that who it was?
Alexander Downer is what his name is. Yeah.
Oh, Alexander John Goss
Yeah,
Downer.
yeah.
Okay. That's from Swampy McGee.
Yeah.
Foreign Affairs, 1996 and 2007.
Yeah. And he's going to be involved. I think it'd be interesting to see if he's a part of Operation Lodestar or not. Like I said, I only interviewed one guy who was on the German team. But if you remember all the way back in our series, this goes back 700 days, where we talked about Volkovac, Diane Volkovac. She was on the DynCorp team, and she was talking about there was one of the teams, like I don't know, I can't remember what it was, like the Bulgarian team or whatever. Just one second. Was trafficking these girls across this river, and there's a movie done about that that we talked about. I can't remember. It's called. I can't remember the name of it right now. Okay, go ahead.
Washington news site says Swampy McGee Downer is linked to 25 million donation to the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah. He's the big donor to the Clinton Foundation. So, yeah. So, I believe that I knew I had said that these guys started in Bosnia, 1995. I had said that Deripaska was the guy on getting the resources, the weapons, the gun runner, getting the gangs, right? I had said Steele was a part of this, right? I didn't think Bruce Orr went back that far at the time, but I said there's going to be some action with DynCorp in Bosnia where they all get together for the first time, right? Then I heard Lodestone. As soon as I heard Lodestone today, the first second I heard Lodestone, even before I knew there was an Operation Lodestone, I said, that's it. That's going to be it. There's going to be an operation. I said it earlier on Capitol Hill today. The minute I heard it, I said, there's going to be an Operation Lodestone. I know that's where they met. I thought it was going to be Bosnia. And then somebody looked it up. I think Margie was the one who looked it up. Operation Lodestone was the stabilization force code name for the British Army in Bosnia. I know that's where they're going to have met. So all these things do come, the whistleblower is the name of it. Yeah, Diane Balkovic, yes. Thank you very much. Oh, Suki, Suki Fasano, are you in Ohio gozaimasu? Are you in Japan, Suki? Well, that's kind of cool. So anyway, what's nice about this is when you drill down to these events, you could be able to now look very closely at who was in the operational planning of these things. We knew Albright was going to be involved. Madeleine Albright was very much involved in the planning of this operation. And she's going to be meeting with Alexander Downer and Christopher Steele and Dearlove and also Halper going back there in 95. There's going to be a 94, 95 meeting. Maybe it might go back as far as 92. But she's going to be there, I guarantee you. And she's going to be on the center of it. What a lot of people don't realize is when Carter Page goes over to London and then jumps from London then and goes on to Moscow to get the offer supposedly of the 133 million shares of Rosneft in exchange for Crimea, right? This hasn't come to pass yet, but this is what's coming. This is what Bill Browder texted to Paul Manafort in the meeting, right? That London meeting that he went to was put on by Madeleine Albright. Right. So Madeleine Albright's coaching Carter Page right before he goes to Russia. And that's coming back here. John Kasich also in Bosnia. Interesting. It's interesting that he said he was going to run for president. They all want to run because who else? Suki, nice name. I like that name. They all want to run because they're all co-conspirators. Of course they want to run. Makes a lot of sense. I would want to run too. I would want to control the. That's a lyric in my song.
That's from me. No, yeah. We the People Worldwide is someone's handle name.
Oh, okay.
And that's a lyric in my song, which I'll plan to do tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, for those, this is all news tonight. We can do the news, breaking news. He's got the trumpet flares and so forth. Yeah. So this we had the complaint, not a complaint really, but I want more news. Yeah. That was a troll.
No, I know. Okay, that's fine. That's right. But tonight is all news. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Alexander Butterfield was a setup. Okay. Yeah. The recording of Nixon now, people are talking about how Alexander Downer also tried to take down Nixon. Stephen Halper. The reason why Nixon had the recording device in Nixon.
Nixon coming.
You want to do that? Okay. Yeah. See, it just comes up. So yes, you can super chat anytime you like, Hammy Q. Yeah, you can. So if you're just joining us, we had Operation Lodestar break today. Betsy DeVos's father-in-law died today. She also had her $50 million yacht vandalized in Port Huron as well. Wow. And people are wondering, is she the leak? You know, she's obviously married to Eric Prince, who runs Blackwater.
Oh, that's
her brother.
Her brother.
I apologize. And people are wondering, yes, I think Trump is actually recording. There you go. It's still sunny. Yeah.
Is it still sunny?
Yeah. Oh, is it still sunny? Yes, it's very hot. Very hot. I believe. I mean, a little bird told me that I believe they're making arrangements right now, and Sean Hannity is handpicking who is going to do the Trump Declassify interview.
Tonight, possibly?
I don't know if it's going to be tonight or not. This is unconfirmed rumor, but the 20-pager will be the only one that will be put out. And the reason is it's had a month of review. It's people, all the different congressmen have read it. They said there's nothing in there that needs to be hidden, you know how he picked out, I can't remember the pretty blonde gal, what her name is. I can't remember her name. I got the exclusive interview before. Peter Ducey got the one in the not the Rose Garden, but out on the North Lawn, that long interview, and then can't remember Kaylee, but it's not Kaylee. I got the next one, and now they're going to dole it out to another one. I don't know if it'll be like a Greg Jarrett or somebody like that, but I think it's actually going to be Greg Jarrett. We'll find out. But Hannity is trying to play low, trying to not look like it's a total insider game. I saw Burt Reynolds died, yeah. And I believe it's going to be one of the Fox team that gets the exclusive interview.
Ainsley Earhart.
Ainsley.
That's from
yeah.
Elaine Will.
Yeah, Ainsley Earhart, yeah. So I believe that's happening as we speak. And that's just Washington talking at you. That's just talk. So
Are they connected? Somebody asked that.
yeah. So so Gladio, if you're not familiar with an infiltration campaign, what you do typically is you start slow and low, right? You go in with teachers. You don't say, hey, I'm going to bring in my Spetsnaz sniper team. Can we stay at the Hilton? And the country that doesn't want to be overthrown is going to say, hey, that's not good. You shouldn't bring in a sniper team. That's might be dangerous to us during the Maidan Revolution, right? So you say, well, hey, no, I've got volunteers. They're going to bring in humanitarian aid, right? So you bring in teachers and you bring in people doing humanitarian aid because everybody wants humanitarian aid. And then once you get your people on the ground and they can start looking around, then you can start infiltrating more and more things. Once I'm, working here on this square here, I could say, well, we should put somebody in over at the Navy Museum over there. We should put somebody in right over here at DOJ, and then maybe right around at FBI. You kind of work your way up. As a matter of fact, I talked to a guy tonight who configured phones. He didn't want me to say this, so I won't say it. I won't say he's configured phones for the FBI for the last 3 years. That's not you I'm talking about. That, but we did have a nice conversation about it. And again, this is why you don't stay in your grandmother's basement. You go out and you actually talk to the people who actually configure the phones for the FBI rather than staying in your mother's basement saying, I know everything, right? I know that those drives in Imran's backpack are not backups of the DNC and DCCC server, even though those are the two key things, the two key servers that are missing. And the backpack is subject to 3 different investigations by 3 major intelligence agencies. Do you really think that they would be, if there were video game replays, do you think the NCIS would really care? Do you think the FBI would care? Do you think Capitol Police would go out of their jurisdiction to go into Virginia to get the hard drives, HA? But no, HA is sure that they have nothing to do with the DCCC, even though Imran was the administrator there. They have nothing to do with the DNC, even though Imran had the login to the DNC server, right? I'm glad you can make that call, right, from your grandmother's basement or your mother's basement. I'm sorry, I don't mean to slight your grandmother.
All right, you're not going to say it, but George Webb 2020, and then someone seconded it. So I'll third it.
Don't worry about that. Yes, I am a street journalist. So anyway, yeah, so I did meet this guy. He did configure phones for the FBI. And well, not only did, he did during the switchover, which is very important. They were all BlackBerry. I said, you guys do a lot of BlackBerries, don't you? It's like, no, actually we switched over to Samsung. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'll get to Golan schools in a second. And I'm like, oh, about May 2016, because I was trying to remember when, or maybe it was a little later in the year, when the FBI switched over from BlackBerries over to Samsungs, because there's a 3-month blackout after Trump is elected. And they get them right at like October, I think, somewhere in there. I can't remember, but they blame the Samsung phones for the 3-month blackout, right? Because of the new software not working or there being a glitch or whatever. So it's just interesting to see somebody who's actually configuring the phones. And I shouldn't say anymore because I don't want to blow up the source if he watches the channel. But again, it's confirming, right, what you've reported with face-to-face, eye-to-eye, interviews, right? So Lon, when I said you want to put teachers in first into any, country that you want to infiltrate, Gulan's that guy. So Gulan runs a very large drug operation, and he also runs a large weapons caching operation, right? So he is the one who has these teachers that, somebody's saying who configured the iPhones. He doesn't, I think that's Imran. Isn't it interesting that at the same time that the FBI cuts over from BlackBerries over to iPhones, so does the Senate, so does the House? Kind of interesting.
Someone agrees with you about Pence being the leaker, or the anonymous source.
Well, and if you go back, Pence was kind of a protege of Richard Lugar. Again, this is where history really helps. He was kind of brought on by Lugar. Lugar was the guy who was Mr. Resources. He was the guy with Sam Nunn that wrote the megatons to megawatts plan, the anti-proliferation bill, right? That kicked this whole thing off. Now, all these old satellites of the Soviet Union had HEU. Belarus had HEU. Ukraine had the most HEU. Kazakhstan had a huge amount of HEU, highly enriched uranium, which is worth trillions, right? So that would have been, Chris Hill, who's out at the University of Denver right now. I'm going to say he was also not too far away from Operation Lodestar. If I get the HEU, I can run a reactor for the rest of my life. I bury a small star reactor, which is from Lawrence Livermore, and I can run a hospital for life. No one will know where I'm getting my power from. I can run a hospital for 80 years with that HEU, right? It's very valuable. Go ahead.
Hokkaido Japanese reactor on backup generator. Someone's saying that like breaking news, but they keep taking it off. So I don't know.
So is the Hokkaido, they're saying that Hokkaido is on a backup
Southern
nuclear?
California deplorable Harry Lindemann is saying that, but then he retracts it. So
See, people are going to like you in this moderator role. They're going to like it. Like you're
good. I can do whatever is needed.
Yeah, this is good because
No,
then you can say what I miss.
Margie's not sure about Pence, but she's listening.
Well,
there you go, big one. Do you know anything about the Argyle International Airport and Container Facility in St. Vincent? Club K Weapons, Drugs, Bermuda Ambassador, $25 by Community Bulletin Board. Is it coming up on yours yet?
Oh, Community Bulletin Board. He's the guy who is in California that wants to do the live bulletin boards. Like the simulcast.
Yes.
So
he's asking, do you know anything about the Argyle International Airport and Container Facility in St. Vincent? Club K Weapons, Drugs, Bermuda Ambassador. Oh, St. Vincent Island, I guess.
Yeah, St. Vincent. I think St. Vincent's a part of, here you can do the moderation. This is nice when you have online moderation. This is nice.
All right.
I'm liking this. This is good.
I can do it all.
Because then I can turn the information back around to the audience real time.
Yes, especially
right?
since I'm right next to you.
I know.
When I'm at home,
I know. This is much better. This is much better. And is St. Vincent British Virgin Islands?
Yeah, it sounds like it's right.
Yeah, I think it is.
Bermuda.
Yeah, thank you, and JK. Yeah. So JK's working. So if you don't like JK's music, you can still come tomorrow night.
George.
Hold on. Just don't get. You can't. People criticize me all the time.
It's 10%.
I know. No. I know. Don't take it personally. What I'm saying is, you can come tomorrow night and donate to JK for his moderation, right?
And being a local, and my connection to Raleigh Flynn,
and being a
and information literacy,
right? Yeah.
Being a teacher.
No need to defend.
I'm not.
All right, St. Vincent. Can you do Argyle? Can you look up Argyle Container Facility?
Sure.
Or maybe we'll just have to remember Argyle. I will remember.
Someone else paid. Thanks, George and JK. Okay, Cleveland, Ohio.
I'll just remember. Oh, that's probably Ari. I'm guessing from Cleveland.
Cleveland, Ohio.
So yes, former Ambassador Chris Hill to South Korea, but Chris Hill also, again, I believe he was ambassador to Yugoslavia or Bosnia or Serbia or one of those countries during this Operation Lodestone. And again, I said that over 2 years ago that he was going to be a key principal in this thing because they named the school. He's now the president of the University of Denver, and they named the school after Madeleine Albright's father, and I can't remember the name of the school right off the bat, but I'll remember it in good time. So I think he is the ambassador. Chris Hill is the ambassador to. No.
They want the music, baby.
They want the music. Okay.
Oh my God, Bruce Barnett wants it, but it's something important. But keep going.
Okay. So if you're just joining us, we're breaking the story now about Operation Lodestone, where they all met, where all these co-conspirators and cabalists met for the first time. I'm saying it's going to be 1995. I'm going to be saying it's in some kind of NATO facility. I believe it was at SHAPE headquarters, SHAPE,
where these things got hammered out, or Brussels, one of the two. And one of the guys who got killed early on into our show, I can't remember his name right now, the treasurer. Yeah, I'll get to Gulen in 1 second.
Is he CIA Clinton? So,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, for sure. I'm remembering his name and forgetting his name, but he's the treasurer guy who was getting all the money for NATO for security operations. And instead of Chandelon, instead of spending the money on actually what he was supposed to be spending money on, he was spending it on high-speed boats and high-speed helicopters to run drugs in and out of, I know this is going to sound unbelievable, but these monasteries all over Europe. And then also money was being sent for weapons for ISIS, or at that time, these different mujahideen. So there's a Bosnian mujahideen, then those guys moved to Croatia, they moved to Montenegro, they moved to Kosovo. It's the same crew. And they get support from the Quds Force. The Quds Force, now Mike Flynn says this in his latest book, I'm becoming a Mike Flynn fan. I didn't realize Mike Flynn was so good. I'm like, wow, this guy's really good. I'm not trying to compare myself to Mike Flynn. He's obviously way smarter and way more experienced. But a lot of the things he says, we've naturally done here on our channel. And now I'm just finding out now, like the pattern matching, pattern recognition, and all these very super sophisticated listening devices go from Iran to these, like, where's the enemy kind of thing. They go to the Bosnian Mujahideen. So they're getting state level support. This is not an unsophisticated rabble that's just running around with AK-47s. They're getting high level radar, sat phone, iridium sat phone, getting battlefield readouts as far as where the enemy is, getting artillery support from NATO. I think the bombing campaign with Mr. Seven Countries. I can't remember his name. The guy who ran for president, the Democratic guy who ran for president. So, okay, what's your next question? Never Trumpers are meeting on Jekyll Island. Don't they, before the election, don't they always meet on Jekyll Island? Isn't that where they always meet? That's where the Fed was created, if you don't know the story of Jekyll Island. Sea Island, Georgia, yes, which is, I think, the CIA, it just should be called CIA Island, but that's where they do have a lot of their kind of coup meetings. I think that's coming up. But anyway, the bottom line with Gulen is you have all these folks that you use to infiltrate into a country, but the first people you lead with are humanitarian aid and teachers. And that's what they did in almost all the countries of Central Asia. The guy who wrote the plan was Graham Fuller. Graham Fuller keeps writing the plan. He wrote the plan in Chechnya. That's why his daughter ended up marrying one of the Chechnyan kids in the Boston bombings. Then they moved to the United States. So a lot of these same people, these same operatives that were trained overseas, then they bring into the United States, the smartest ones, right? What is
Bruce Barnett had a jihad rat line into Bosnia, CIA, so we know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And CIA had a jihadi rat line up here.
A jihadi rat line, yeah. And it's going to be Peter Strzok flying the helicopters. Now, he's a very young Peter Strzok. He's 24 years old. But this is what's good about talking to people who actually flew those helicopters last night, and actually saying how it works. And then he was saying, hey, you don't want to spray the bullet. Obama was saying you couldn't shoot from, with your gun level like this because it could, go through a village and so forth. That they could only shoot down in a spray pattern, and their spray pattern had to be tighter, went from a sharper angle and so forth. Just some things that you never would think of, on the Cobra helicopters. But the unmanned helicopters weren't developed at that point. But this whole Bridgewater investment firm that Comey was part of, right? All the technology for unmanned is going through that rinse, and then HSBC is where it's ending up. That's where all the money ended up, was in private bank HSBC. We said that 2 years ago. It's turning out to be more true than ever. Somebody said he's not helping you, George, and I don't know who that is.
Well, Frank Hodgin is saying that Stefan Halper, the Reagan White House, have alleged that Stefan Halper served as director of policy coordination in the Reagan-Bush campaign, used former CIA agents to run a data collection operation on the Carter AD. Not sure what the Carter AD would be, but that sounds pretty what you've said.
Well, the Office of Net Assessment has been the front company for running intelligence operations against every president since Jimmy Carter. And every president, by using intel against them, and basically, I mean, if I give fake coordinates to a plane, I only need to give fake coordinates to one plane to have a mid-air collision, and then have the whole Operation Eagle Claw become a disaster. And then I publicize it, I just leak it out to 2 or 3 people that there's this disaster in the desert, which is normally a classified operation. How'd that get leaked, right? And now I embarrass the president and he loses the election. And I could do that right October, September-ish timeframe. This is why I think Trump has to declassify now and not wait for an October surprise. Declassify now, at least 20 pages with Carter Page, and then we'll get there. What's your next one?
Civil Gladio Ops. See, Clinton, you were going to get to that. Is Gulen?
Yeah, Gulen is Gladio. That's no two ways about that.
They said Civil Gladio. Oh, right.
Sibel Edmonds is who they're saying. Okay, and Sibel Edmonds is Sibel, and she's the one who worked in the Washington field office here as a translator for Turkey, and was intercepting all these cables as Turkey as a NATO intermediary to Iran. So that's Eagle Claw's failed mission. So I say it's Operation. We have an operation name now, which is kind of nice. Lodestone. We can learn more about Lodestar now. It kind of does go along with everything I've been saying about MedStar and Lodestar is the mining part of the operation. MedStar is the end use of it's one of the uses that you can use with the ore, the Bruce ore and the Anelli ore. One of the uses is medical. Not just using it for molybdenum 99 for imaging applications, but also research reactors. You can do all sorts of different defense stuff. You can dust a field, for instance, a battlefield with radioactive dust, and then you can see how people are moving. Track the tire tracks from hour to hour and all that good stuff. You get that radioactive stuff on you, then you can see if someone's been a terrorist or not. If somebody's a cab driver in the morning and then they put on their uniform in the afternoon, go do a terrorist thing, and they come back, they've got radioactive dust all over their boots where you in the battlefield area, you can trace them back to, I don't want to give away any national secrets here. This is the kind of thing that the Navy Research Lab does over in Anacostia.
So Rob Downs says that Trey Gowdy is getting ready to be live on Fox News. So if these guys, someone could tune into that and then keep us posted.
I'm sure people will have,
contributors, someone let us know what's going on.
I'm sure everyone has Fox News on. I think this is coming quick tonight. I think it'll be interesting.
All right, Pounds. German reporter from Stern Magazine reported meeting UBL whilst waiting to interview Bosnia's Serb leader.
Osama bin Laden. He said while persuading to who?
Serb leader Izetbegovic.
Oh, okay.
While waiting. So that was from Stern Magazine.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bruce.
Well,
thanks for the
thank you, Bruce. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm so into what you're saying that.
20 pounds.
Oh, 20 pounds. Okay. All right. So.
Euros. Is that Euro? I think that's Euros.
No, that's euros. Yeah, it is euros. Yeah, they do use. They still use pounds in England, I believe, don't they? Yes. Last time I was there, I think they take euros now, though. Yeah. Most places take euros, but Bruce is over there by G4S, I think. Cheltenham. No, Cheltenham's on the going to the west in England, where GCHQ is, but over on the east side is. Oh wait. Where was I? Where did I go? Cheltenham's GCHQ. Chelmsford is where GCHQ is. That's where I'm saying the folks. You get cooking fast with Chelmsford.
Brazilian presidential frontrunner stabbed. Bloomberg. Confirm that for us.
Okay, and I don't want to get on too many. Breaking news.
Breaking news.
Yeah. So interesting. This is kind of like a newsroom now. Just throwing it one after another. But I do think it's going to be Bosnia is going to unlock all of this. DynCorp is going to unlock all of this. And once you get all these threads that are like self-reinforcing, Chelmstead, Chelmsley, Chelmston, yeah. But it is Chelmsford. I know this to be true, Chelmsford.
That's from Donovan.
Yes, Donovan. And Universal.
Yellow.
Yeah. That's right. But people say, oh, how do you do this like analysis so fast? Well, we have DynCorp. We know that for 700 days, right? We have all the folks that were involved in the NATO planning, right? We know Gladio B, so we've read all of Sibel Edmonds' books, right, and watched her newscasts, and James Corbett. We've taken the time to actually read Peter Dale Scott, and for some reason I'm not doing good on names today. But I can't. I want to say Engelbart, but it's not Engelbart, the guy who invented the mouse.
Hi from Belfast, Ireland.
From Belfast.
Michael McCartney.
Another place where low-intensity warfare was perfected. And the idea, when you go to the Army War College in Pennsylvania, and I'm not sure what city the Army War College is actually in Pennsylvania, but I think it's somewhere in the middle of the state. Again, you're going to have compromise operations there, like Penn State. I don't know how far State College is away from the Army War College, but I think you're going to have people from the Army War College getting invited to Penn State for compromise. William Engdahl, thank you. Oh, this is great. Hubble Road. I always love that Hubble Road. I wonder if the Hubble spaceship got put in by GCHQ and Hubble Road. But anyway, the same kind of compromise operation that was run up in by the New London, which is the Coast Guard and also the Navy War College. Same operation they've been running there. I'm not saying just Nellie, I'm saying all the way back to her mother 40 years ago. The same kind of operation is going to be run at Penn State. The whole second mile and all that, blaming it on just the one guy, Jerry, what's his name? It's much worse than that. It's going to be the same kind of compromise operations for the Army War College, because that's where you get your commission. You come out of the War College, just like when you graduate from college, you get your diploma. You come out of the war colleges and you get your commission. That's where you go from being a, like Mike Flynn was saying, I'm a light bird, or what do they call that, a little bird, or I'm not like not a full colonel, but a lieutenant colonel, right? And then you go to the War College and you do something, and then now all of a sudden you've got a wing of, you're the air cavalry now, or you're the artillery general, and before you become a general, I believe, you got to do some time at the War College. I'm just, be nice to have any generals in the audience kind of chime back, but I'm just going on what Mike Flynn said. Same thing, you're going to have some kind of compromise operation. Now, was Flynn being so close to he literally, how Sarah Palin could see Russia from her house, Mike Flynn could see the Navy War College.
She never said that.
She never said that?
No.
Never said that? Okay.
But Tina Fey did.
Okay.
That's how dumb the people are.
Okay. All right. It's just a fun thing to throw in.
Exactly,
But Mike Flynn could see the Navy War College from his house, which makes you wonder. He was going to go in the Marines. He only had a 1.2 point grade point average. He said he was convicted. He ran with some bad guys, and I think he stole a car or something like that. It was going to go away for time. He got put into a boys' institution just for one night, but he had a year probation, and he was like, this Army guy kind of swept in and kind of took him under his wing, and he had already signed to go to the Marines, and he got him out of the Marines and into the Army, and with a 3-year scholarship. So that's the story of Mike Flynn. So in the shadow of the Navy War College. So did he see this stuff? Did he see what was going on here? And is he trying to break it up? We don't really know the answer. Don't know the answer. Did he see what was going on with Iran and the Quds Force being used as kind of a foreign legion for ISIS all over the place? He definitely made mention of that in Libya. He definitely made mention of that in Syria, right? And I didn't realize Mike Flynn was so anti-Iran. he's like my blood brother right now. I mean, he's like, I like this guy. This guy's pretty smart.
From Norway. Hello from Norway.
Jordan Gorde. Yeah, that's all the Norwegian you're going to get out of me. And then
Here's somebody said Enron fraud funded a lot of things. Their implication was that fraud, then that money was used for a lot of
well,
dirty stuff.
I think it was the other way around. I think Enron laundered a lot of money from operations for oil grabs and mineral grabs all over the world. And Enron was a convenient way of, basically, you only need the company around long enough to do a pump and dump scheme, and then you just get rid of it. And then collapse it, and all the records go away, and that's kind of what happened.
Mark is saying there's a rumor that Flynn did stand up to Obama, resisted war in Syria, and yes, he did.
Well,
he stood up to Obama.
I don't think he. So I'm listening to exactly his book in October of 2016, and he's very critical of Obama, and he's very critical of this, Muslim Brotherhood thing and the radical Islam and so forth. And a lot of those things are probably pretty true. He's got his facts straight for sure. He's obviously, ran the DIA. The most interesting thing to me was how much he said Iran supported these different mujahideen all over the world with very sophisticated communications, like satellite link-ups, special forces support, helicopter support, special weapons and tactics. All this, yes, I did know them. Yes, I did. Yes, that's a very true story. So I'll get to thorium in a second. But so Mike Flynn, I'm really enjoying reading his book, and he's really zooming in, and I like everything about him.
Can you keep the spirit of Jenny with you while you're reading?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of one of those sad things where I wish she could hear me saying this, because when we come here, it is a little bit,
Yeah, you get a little sad. I look over, this is where we sat inside, here's where we sat outside. And I was just saying that to George.
And this is where you really got to know her.
Really got to know her.
Because that was when she'd kind of come back.
I met her in February in front of the Capitol, outside, the Whistleblower Sundays.
Right.
And then, but here when we met, we had a lot of conversations while George was doing some other things. Really got to know her well. She never told me anything because she already said, I'm not going to tell you stuff that will compromise you. She didn't tell me anything will compromise me.
I'll drop something right now, as a matter of fact, that she told me, and I never repeated this before. But this isn't anything new, but Frank Marshall Davis, this kind of famous black guy advocate, communist type advocate, he was just one of a whole litany of people that were cultivated by the Hawks in Kingston, and she was the wheel. Kathleen, not Nellie, her mother, was kind of the wheel of all these people coming in and evaluating them and seeing, kind of, you're going to be a spy. Oh, you're going to be kind of like Jeff Epstein. You're going to fly a plane. You're not going to be a spy. Or, you got the taxi cab. You go up to see Michael Cohen and get a taxi medallion, and you're going to be running drugs and or stealing cars or something like that. So. What's next on the thorium reactor?
Go ahead.
Thorium reactor. So all this technology, again, if you don't actually take the time as a journalist to go study what secrets were actually in Oak Ridge, people will say, well, then there's nothing to steal there. Why would they steal old secrets? Because there was a huge national push of everything we had as a country. About 5% to 10% of our national GDP went into this during the war years to developing this technology, and it was coming from everywhere for free, okay? Because people were doing it for the war effort. So people say, oh, thorium reactor is 50 years old, and then the dream of the Air Force, which now would be the Space Force, would be, hey, outer space. These missiles, we could have nuclear-powered rockets. We could explore the world, and that's where the thorium reactor came from. I'm not exactly sure why it had to be thorium, but the bottom line is thorium is much less radioactive. Thorium, the only problem is you have to heat thorium up really hot in order to melt it, to melt this kind of the salt, in order to then use it. And but a lot of people, like I believe, John Podesta is a major advocate for thorium reactor, and in Eunice, New Mexico. Oh,
There you go.
how did he reconcile the corruption of Iran's what?
America's own responsibilities, such as the ex-Textron factory. If Flynn was anti-Iran, how did he reconcile
The
part
Textron,
of-
the Textron
yeah.
factory. Yeah. Let me think about that a second. But my point being is, there's a lot of old secrets and old work that was done in Oak Ridge that just didn't pan out because of the technology at the time. Like, if you think about it, no nuclear project would have ever made any sense economically because of so much. Thank you, Judy. No, nothing would have ever made sense
Thank you, Judy.
if it was a commercial activity only. I mean, to make the first 2 atomic bombs was like billions of dollars, and like I said, 5% of our GDP. It was obviously a money loser. Thorium reactor was sort of the same game. I think thorium's even more plentiful than uranium, and it has this nice ability not to have a radioactive wastes and create a waste problem which has to be managed. You can't steal a whole bunch of thorium as a terrorist, for instance. And I think it's John Podesta's way to go. Green nuclear. This is coming. This is going to be rolled out. The test reactor is underground in Eunice, New Mexico, and it's a smart play. Hey, we need to get rid of have a Fukushima, and now we have to get rid of all nuclear, and now we got to cut over to thorium. I do think at some point they're going to cut over to thorium. They've cornered the market. They have all the patents. So here's what I mean. If you have a Bruce Orr and his father, Sekou Orr, those are valuable patents. And the thing that he was working on, Bruce Orr's dad, was these containment vessels. If you get the containment vessels right, and they last a long time, where you don't have to have people going in and servicing the reactor core all the time, and it just runs for 50 years. I run a hospital for 100 years. You never touch it. The solid state stuff where you don't ever have to cool it. It just runs. That's the dream, right? Now, I don't know if they're going to do it or not, but that's when supposedly Joe Paterno, yeah. I mean, Joe Paterno was used as a draw card to bring in Army War College people, just like Bill Clinton was used at Block Island to bring down these Coast Guard coasties and Navy guys.
All right, 2 new subjects. Can you decide? John Kerry's doing a book in New York City right now, book signing.
Okay.
And then Buffalo Pete says, is Uranium One Bundy related? So you decide which one, but their main point is it's a money laundering. The books are for money laundering. They say Obama did that. They say Kerry did that. I mean, they think Kerry might be doing it. They say Comey did it. A way to launder money through these books.
Well,
that don't really sell.
Yeah. Well, we know that's true for Hillary. I think actually I bought Obama's book, so I can't imagine anybody laundering. I can't imagine Obama laundering any money. But Kerry, yeah, I could see that. I just want to see Kerry's BlackBerry. I don't care about his book. I want to see his BlackBerry and the deal he negotiated. To get back to Mark's question about the Textron helicopter plant, I think, until we get the papers, until we get some of this backstory, we won't know the answer. One of the things Mike Flynn says in his book is when they did Osama bin Laden and they retrieved the computers, there was millions of pages of intel. We've only seen a few dozen of the pages, but he said it's full of Iranian, all this Iranian stuff, that Al-Qaeda actually had a secret operational center in Iran, right? So he's not being soft on Iran. I think he realizes there were some past sins, and he says in the book, hey, I've been limited. I can't talk about a lot of these things because they're classified, but these things that definitely should be declassified. The whole world will change. People's impression of Iran will completely change when the Osama bin Laden documents. I had no idea there was such a strong connection between, Hillary's book's now on sale for $2.
In the sale bin.
And at some point, it gets cheap enough where as a doorstop, it's kind of funny. I could see conservatives actually buying it and using it for a doorstop or using it to paper, their bird cage or
They
whatnot.
also say 501c3s buy a lot of copies.
Yeah, I could see that too, where like, okay, we're going to try to convince everyone in Massachusetts, so we're going to give every child a copy of the Carey book. I think Carey is a little long in the tooth right now. It should be available at charity stores. Obama, actually, a lot of people read his books. I have never read 3 autobiographies about anybody, but I read all 3 about Obama. So there's an active market. Obama would be the one I would say that's not true.
Okay, and here we are on the same series, and I see Obama very differently, but we can still get along because there could be, it's on your good side or not. And I say Alex Jones is on the good side. I say he's on the right team. But somebody is gay. Well, it depends. If they're on the good side, we want them. Somebody is a liberal, but they're on the good side. We want them. To understand, we the people worldwide need everyone on the good side, and it doesn't matter. They try to divide us and get us fighting. So forget all those labels. There's a way to determine if they're candid and humble, if they're really seeking the truth. That's the good side. So there can be Obama supporters that are on the good side, and I say George is one of them.
You just reminded me of something. I met somebody here who worked for the Smithsonian today, and he worked out at the Smithsonian in Chantilly. Now this kind of goes back to the molten reactor. The idea of the molten reactor, the salt molten reactor, was to put it on this hypersonic. Back then they thought, space travel is going to just, once you fire it, you're done. You get one pull of the trigger and then it's got to keep going, and it's got to provide all of its power, the whole crew and everything for however far it's going, right? You only get one shot. The idea of a space shuttle at that time had not been developed. So the idea was, okay, put this reactor on a plane or a rocket. Okay, well, we'll come back to that, but it was conceived in Chantilly. Chantilly is where we have our drug operation, which is, remember, every time we see an ambulance, we think, is that Operation Cassandra? Is that ambulance involved in a $200 million a month drug operation? Here in Virginia, every time we see a fire truck, it's about the size of a container. It's spinning the red light. It's a national 9/11 that Club K weapons would be shipped surreptitiously all over the world. So we have our fire trucks, and we have our ambulances for our 2 major scandals that we're not talking about, right? So what I love about the Chantilly is, then the Smithsonian guy, he put it all together for me. He goes, you think the Air and Space Museum is really great over here at the Smithsonian? They said, first of all, they said that he has 300 buildings around the world. I talked to 2 guys here that just have the DC. There's 17 free museums when you come to DC, but they have 300 facilities. So immediately I started thinking, is Smithsonian a front, a CIA front, and all these different places? They have some on islands. They have some of these buildings on islands, right? And I'm not talking about England, right? I'm thinking, out in the middle of the Pacific in the Maldives is where it. But anyway, they said that they extended the runway at Dulles to go to Chantilly. They're that close to each other, and they landed the last Concorde here. They landed all because it's such an uneconomical airplane. Do you remember that? The Concorde landing here?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. See, we have verification. And then they also landed the space shuttle here. They can land the space shuttle there at that field in Chantilly.
You mean Dulles?
Yeah.
Probably. I don't know for sure. But
they extended the runway. Well, anyway,
they did, yes.
They said the spy plane, I think it was the SR-71,
okay,
the Blackbird, is the first thing you see when you walk in, but it's camouflaged. So a lot of people, when they go into the museum in Chantilly, again, this is this weird kind of, I want to call them a very spacey crew, right? Where they think about, well, if the Earth blows up, we still want to live, so we want to be able to send nuclear power rockets in space. That's how far out they're thinking, right? And this is the same group that has same group in Chantilly that has the 2 plans, Club K, and they also have Operation Cassandra. So they have these wacky things, and everybody says, oh, they're not capable of these wacky thoughts. They are capable of these wacky thoughts. as well as sealing the deal with kids. And we got Clotworthy standing next to the rocket, the North Korean rocket, the NK-3 rocket, right? And they did put a satellite in space. Right now, I don't believe anybody knows in February of 2016 what they put in space. But we believe that and Jenny believed this very much, that there's this wacky group of defense threat reduction folks, which is just kind of like a CIA group, a space, spy satellite space kind of CIA group that's out there that's doing this stuff. And they're the core of the cabal. This is like Peter Strzok and all these folks are in this cabal. So it's a hypothesis to test, but at least it's a working theory. So, can you block the
Yeah,
Obama?
it's not, okay, yeah, anti-gravity.
Yeah. And I'm not, you can look into anything, right? First thing you have to do for any kind of, I'm sure they've studied this out in Chantilly, which is gravitational waves. If you can first find the wave, let me know. Call me when you find the gravitational waves. Then I'll start talking to you about an anti-gravity device, okay? But until you find the wave, it's kind of like what I said in Las Vegas. When it gets to the top 3 floors with MBZ, give me a call. And I waited about 3 weeks. About 3 weeks later, it got to the 43rd or 40 whatever floor, the top 3 floors, and then I said, okay, I'll engage this because that's who ordered it, right? That's where the hit was going to be, right? So this actually works this is a good format. I like this format because it's all these things they normally miss that you pick up.
Uranium 1 Bundy.
Oh, Uranium 1 and Bundy.
That was Buffalo Pete.
Yeah. So just think of Oleg Deripaska as Uranium 0 and Uranium 1. Uranium 0 is, like I said before, Luger. They write this non-proliferation, meaning we're going to get all the HEU. So the first step of the operation, the first half of the operation is going out and stealing all the HEU. Okay, so I got to make sure that the right people are in the right places, the spies are in the right places. So I have to infiltrate the intelligence services to find out where the HEU is. Then I have to figure out who moves the HEU, okay? So I would need to, in America, I would need to infiltrate the NNSA, okay? I only need a Jaquea to do one infiltration. I only need one person to tell me where the HEU is. In this case, it's 2 places. One's at Oak Ridge, Y12 complex. So I need to have Jaquea and pink cocaine and little entendre right there. And then I need to go Savannah Riverside, where the other place, right? Okay. Oh, that's interesting.
Is there one? That's what
No.
Donovan Worland said.
No, I don't. Oh, well,
East Oregon, near the gorge, there's a graviton facility. They're trying to detect graviton.
Yeah. That's true.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll get to that in a second. But the key idea here is Chantilly. Was I on Chantilly? What was I talking about?
Sorry, Chantilly. Yeah.
Was that where I was? Okay. Something.
We're saying where the facilities were, and that's why I showed you that he said there was one there. You were talking about this, right? Anti-gravity.
No. I was talking about something else.
Somebody tell him.
No,
I was working the board.
Yeah. I'm sorry. But
You won Bundy.
oh, Bundy. Yes. Yeah. That was
Thank you, Buffalo Pete.
Yeah. That's the Oregon connection. So there's an interesting connection there. Yes. Thank you. So if you think of Deripaska first, if you were infiltrating the United States to try to steal the HEU, you would have one Jaquea at the gate, right? And when that guard got off work, you'd make sure that there was pink cocaine for him, right? Now he's going to tell me he works for NNSA. He's going to say we are the storage facility, okay? Now I know where it is. It's kind of like Fort Knox. First you got to know where the bank is, right? Next thing is, when does it move? When does it move? And who's responsible for moving it? Well, in America, it would be DTRA, which is Defense Threat Reduction Agency. That's where it's moving, okay? Now, I need to know somebody who says it's going to move on such and such a day from here to there. We're going to move it from Y12 because we're going to do some testing, some experimental reactor, and we're going to take it in a nuclear submarine from Charleston, South Carolina, from our bullpen in South Carolina, or from our bullpen in
Cape Canaveral to Tbilisi, and we're going to give it to the Georgian science whatever, and Bob highly enriched uranium, highly enriched Mueller is going to take the sample, right? So I need someone who knows when that's moving, right? And then I again just need Jaquea, you know, the Rothschild girls for one bar, one overnight stay. I get the HEU, right? I swap in the low level HEU, low enriched uranium that's not worth anything. I take the hot stuff, the good stuff. So the first, during the collapse of the Soviet Union from 91 to, I'm going to say till about 93, 94, was all about getting the HEU. Now some of the HEU they didn't get till later, but they got it from Ukraine, they got it from Kazakhstan, they got it from all the stands, they got it from Belarus. If you look at all the people, all the conspirators here, they're all involved in getting the HEU out of their countries. Sergei Milyan was the key guy in Belarus that helped get the HEU out of Belarus. As soon as I get the HEU, goodbye, I don't need you anymore. As soon as Yanukovych and Ukraine and Paul Manafort got the HEU out of Ukraine, bring in the Spetsnaz snipers, man. Start shooting these people. We don't need these people no more. Now we got the HEU, now we can bring in Joe Biden, we can bring in Burisma, we can go the next level down. The only reason why they went with Manafort, the only reason why Deripaska went with Manafort so long in Ukraine was to get that damn Yanukovych, to get that damn HEU out of there. And that's a fact, right? So as soon as they got the HEU, boom, Yanukovych got overthrown, and then they started doling out the rest of the stuff. Okay, so now we're going to the next thing.
Why delaying the declassifying? Somebody, kind of wants to know what you think. Why? What would be a reason? And maybe you think there's no good reason.
I think there's no good reason.
Just what's the mistake?
Bad advice from the White House counsel. I think the White House counsel is Don McGahn. I think Kelly is obviously an advisor in this. I think he trusts General Dunford. I think he trusts General Mattis. I realize those guys aren't legal experts, but Jay Sekulow, I think, is also kind of giving him some bad advice. Declassifying this is definitely the right way to go. It's, first of all, it puts everybody on the defensive. They're on the offensive right now. The anti-Trumpers, man. I finally saw somebody wearing today in Washington for the first time a Trump shirt.
Okay, I wanted to say something about that.
Yeah.
So you hadn't met anybody until today, first time, right?
Yeah.
Even a MAGA hat, whatever?
Yeah.
Because there's lots of closet Trump supporters.
Yes.
They do not want to come out.
Yeah.
That's why you don't see it.
I saw a family wearing all Trump shirts, and I was like,
2 years you've been here.
gutsy.
First one.
Yeah. I said, that's gutsy.
That is gutsy.
That's gutsy. But anyway, that was kind of an aside. It probably threw me off a little bit. But with Bundy. With Bundy. And I'll get to declassifying in a second.
Okay.
If the second half of Uranium One is, holy shit, all this stuff is missing. The Y12 inventory, there's HEU that really isn't HEU. It's LEU. It's low enriched uranium. It's not. It still looks like uranium, but it's not the good stuff. It got switched. Babies got switched at the hospital, right? Same thing in Savannah Riverside, right? Where also is a storage facility, an NNSA storage facility, right? Now we got to backfill this stuff, right? Well, here's the nice little out we're gonna get. We don't need to deliver the HEU, right? We don't need to deliver the HEU to the power plants. The HEU coming from all these different places in Russia was supposed to get downblended just to fuel. It was supposed to go from 90%, which is trillions of dollars, down to billions of dollars of just fuel. All we need to do is just get some yellow cake and backfill. So it's almost like we got the steel gold bars and they said you can replace it with quarters. Hey, I'll do that all day. I'll take the gold bars home all day long and replace them with quarters the next morning. No problem. So that's what Oleg Deripaska did. He started in Siberia. Took all those mines with thugs. Then he went to Kazakhstan and all the stands, Uzbekistan, all those, Tajikistan, all those, got all those. Then he went to Africa, got all those, right? He didn't get everything, but he was making these uranium plays all over. They ran out there. So finally, the last thing left was the United States, and that was Uranium One.
right? So that was what in Oregon alone was 3,000 farms, 3,000 mines. And what they did was they took all these little companies, all these little mining companies. They made them look like little mom and pop shops, but 3,000. And Bundy's was one of those. And very few people realize even now today what happened, you know, where they got hit by an IRS thing, or they got hit by back taxes from BLM, or they got, you know, something happened to mess them up, you know, their kid, you know, the father had a stroke or whatever, and they had to get out of the farming business, or they had to get out of the ranching business. And that's not only the story of the Bundys, but it's also the story of Finicum as well. Bundy's more in Nevada, and the Finicum's in Oregon. So,
George is part of the Q.
no, I'm not part of the Q team. I'm going to raise the Q to a T. We're truth leaks, right? So they're the ones that are following us. I'm not following Q. Now, what is good about Q is they do have somebody on that team that has access to classified information. I had always thought, I mean, I said this the first time I was on InfoWars. I basically said this. I said Clockwork Orange, which is, you know, this is I'm not saying it's a psyop, but what I am saying is they do like their ratings, and they do have access to classified information. Alex does have classified information. Alex does have 3 satellites. Alex does have a lot of state support. Now, a lot of these people, like, you know, JK and everyone, they're heroes, right? I mean, they broke a lot of stories. When I'll be the first to admit they've broken a lot of stories. But I do think Q is yet another outlet, an InfoWars satellite operation. And you want to create havoc. You want to create controversy in a good way around your brands. Q's a brand, you know. And the reason why I say we up it to a T, we go from Q to a T, is because there's no commercial driver here. I'm not trying to sell anything on this channel, other than really just trying to put the truth out there. And that's really what they can't deal with. That I've had so many people do operations on me, you know, it just one after another, you know, and it's competition. I don't want to talk about the behind the school offers and whatnot, but I said no to Jerome Corsi. I said no. He wanted to pay me and Jason $9,000 a month each, and I said no. Jason was like, "What? Are you crazy?" I'm like, "Isn't that like selling out? I mean, isn't that like where you sell your soul for what's it worth to you?" And that the door slammed on my back not too long after that, because I don't think Jason wanted to let that offer lie too long. But definitely got these replacement in there, and a better replacement. Charles is probably a better replacement for me in that show, because Charles comes with a slide deck, and he's got so much incredible experience, and he's a good replacement for me. I need to be out here. I need to be on the street. I need to be talking to these people all the time, like this guy from Chantilly, and you know, and you know, I need to be talking to the helicopter pilot. I need to be talking to the FBI guy who's configuring the phones for the FBI. I need to do that every day. So it worked out okay.
Can I do a commercial?
Yeah, commercial.
So, a little commercial. So, tomorrow night is going to be end of the week, process everything, have some fun, kick back. Tomorrow evening, America's...
Here's JK. So, I'm going to do the commercial for him. He needs a place in St. Louis, September the 29th, for family of 5.
Downtown St. Louis.
Downtown St. Louis. He wants a view of the river.
Mississippi, the mighty Mississippi.
The mighty Mississippi. He would like to look through the arch. He doesn't want to have one of those glancing views through the arch. He wants it almost to be parabolically over his room, like a rainbow, if that's possible.
And I'll even pay just less than what I can afford right now with the big hotels.
And I think he mentioned something about the Anheuser-Busch beer fountain needing to be in the middle of the room, and then Angel's...
I'll sing for room and board.
There you go.
I'll bring my guitar.
Okay. And and the next one is tomorrow night. We're actually going to do more of a music thing. Although I love this format. I love you catching.
We can do both. I can do
we can do
10
both.
things.
We can
I'll
do both.
10 things.
Yeah.
But tomorrow night, a fundraiser for my daughter's
Well,
college.
we
And
could-
awesome people, up to $230. Thank you.
You know, we could do for the real newsies out there, we could do the first bit of the show, which is more like this.
What you actually said you were going to do. Remember, you were going to do like a recap. Of
But I'm saying a little bit more in depth, like we're
Sure.
doing tonight, like maybe a half hour or something like that, and then we can get into the music after that. So people can drop out and go, okay, I'm not here for the music, I'm here for the news. I want to hear this and I want to move on, you know, and then we'll do it that way.
Yeah, but we'll aim for 15 because then you'll do 30.
I know. We'll aim for 15, we'll do 30. Well, I know that's just, I go on, but,
That's good.
but,
We love it.
so give me one
Yeah,
more.
Peter Dale Scott or Mark Lambert, whatever happened to him.
Oh, Peter Dale Scott was a British diplomat who basically said drugs for weapons is a real deal. And he wrote a lot of books, Guns, Drugs, and Oil. It was one of the first books I quoted in our, William Engdahl is another one. Those are folks that have written books that support our, kind of form the fact base for our story. And then, what was the other one?
And then Mark Lambert
Mark
Peter
Lambert
Dale-
is the key person in Uranium One. So, for instance, if you need to show a receipt that HEU moved from point A to point B, I don't even need to do the truck, right? All I need to do is issue a receipt to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission saying this moved from point A to point B. And if my truck driver lied to me, if my Uzbeki truck driver lied to me because he was, you know, stopping with Jaquaya on the corner, you know, and he didn't make that run, well, I'm not the one who's responsible for that. So he ran the trucking company. This is what I meant about identify the weakest link in the chain. The weakest link in the chain in the United States was transport logistics. So that you get it down to, you know, one truck driver moving this stuff around. And what I say was it was a paper chase. Now he's convicted of fraud. There's an indictment against him, right? And so what I say is that for the covering these transactions where there's missing stuff, it's going to be fake paper, right?
All right, so two things I wanted to point out. One is that George, he likes Obama. I don't like what he's done. I did meet him twice. I've told that story one time before. But also Alex Jones, I don't think he's controlled opposition. George might think that, but George and I don't think the same about Alex Jones. What we have to remember is we need people all over the spectrum who are sinners seeking good, candid and humble. We have to understand that because they're going to get us to fight each other, and that will cause a problem.
Right.
So we're all over a political map, all over. Alex Jones, I believe he's not controlled opposition. I don't know what George is there, but George thinks he's a lot of that kind of thing.
Right.
We
And I'll just say
disagree.
this: I love Dr. Corsi. So I'm not saying everybody who works for InfoWars is running an operation. I'm not saying that. Do I think Jack Prosopic is running an operation? Yes. I've seen literally Jack text, you know, and then Jason goes live the second, you know, that I'm off the air, you know. So do I think those two guys work together a lot? It's going to be interesting to see those text messages when that rolls around.
But somebody made a good point and said they do not believe that President Trump would have been elected without Alex Jones's audience and reach. And I agree with that.
I agree with that.
So that's not controlled opposition.
I never said he was controlled opposition.
No, you didn't. You didn't.
I never.
Someone on here did.
Yeah, I never said Alex Jones was controlled opposition. What I said was they create controversy around themselves to draw attention to themselves. You know, and I can tell you that, and they've drawn, and if you look at Dr. Corsi's kind of mentor, which don't get saucy with me, Bernays. It was this Bernays guy who said, you don't actually fight facts. What you do is you take down the other person by attacking their character. And I saw that in spades from Jason. I saw that in spades from Jack. So and I still see it every day through various, you know, intermediaries. So I have a very different view of Jack and Jason, right, than other people. You know, and I know that there's a relationship there. So, you know, I'm the direct, you know,
victim, if you will, of that. So I have a very different opinion. That's all.
And here's another one.
And I think if you're and I always say this, Alex is the 800-pound gorilla. Alex came up, he was very talented. He caught the attention of a lot of people, and now he's the 800-pound gorilla. And I do the same thing too with the chimps. The chimps coming up into my market, I would make the chimps fight over the one banana too. And that's what I think. And there are chimps that are stupid enough to get into a fight over one banana, and I think you know who I'm talking about. So
supposedly a MAGA rally this Saturday in DC. So let us know where, if it's actually happening. Only one person said it, and then other people were asking where. So suppose, I don't know.
I don't think that's true, but we'll see. We'll see if that's.
And then there's a
I'm not being paid by anybody. I'll tell you
tweet storm now.
Except the contributors. You can see I've got 182 Patreon contributors, and I've got you see the super chats with everyone else.
Trump rally tonight at 9 somewhere else.
Oh, okay.
But here, a tweet storm about declassifying Pfizer. Well, supposedly now, a tweet storm.
Right now?
That's what someone said.
Yeah, so
you guys confirm.
I don't know if there is a tweet storm on Declassify or not. The hashtag Declassify. It would be interesting to see if that's trending. I'll be honest. I mean, I think Alex has a lot of great stories, and then all of a sudden it's the sex trafficking space camp on Mars, and I'm like, really, Alex? So I mean, that's what I'm talking about. And then what the popular press is going to do is they're going to go immediately to that story, the sex whatever space camp on Mars, and they're going to say he's a crackpot, which is what they do. And nut job and lunatic and all that, and that's what Fox News is saying. So I'm not saying it's control opposition, but I wish Alex would drop the space camp sex trafficking on Mars thing.
No, he didn't do that.
I heard him. I was sitting in Jason's place. I was looking right at him. He was talking to Robert David Steele, and he was talking about the sex trafficking on Mars. Anyway.
No, he did not. I was listening to the show, and the guest
Your Bill
said
Timmons is showing. Okay.
The guest said, what?
What? No. What did Mark say?
Well, here's somebody who just donated.
Yeah, what did he say?
Just on using Declassify. Okay, so that Suki and Suki donated $5.
Yeah, okay. So I agree with that. Declassify is the name of the game. I would do the first 20 pages because that's already been vetted. You've had congressmen out there talking about it, for months, right? Or at least a month, saying there's nothing in there that can't be released. The president has a spy as a vice president. When is he going to declassify? If you let just a tidal wave of people completely surround you and cut you off from all information, you're going to lose the presidency, unless he wants to lose the presidency. But I mean, at some point, you have to fight back, and then tell. The only way you can fight back is by giving information out. No one's going to see the president as obstructing if he's releasing information, right? And I even liked when Cory Booker gave out the information today. I was like, hey, everybody should bring in a classified document and publicize it. So anyway, I think that may be good for tonight.
Yeah, that's everything on here.
I think we wound it up. Wow. My great thanks to all the audience here. This is probably one of the most productive, interactive things, and it's because we have the information artist JK with us tonight. Thank you.
In downtown St. Louis, the 28th and 29th of September, my niece's wedding. Would love to stay with or near or whatever contributor of George's from this channel would be awesome. I'll sing for my room and board. I'll pay something.
And could we make sure the glint? I mean, we do want the parabolic effect for the room, but we make sure the glint of the arch doesn't, in the morning during our coffee time, we just don't want any glinting sun. So I will have to say thank you very much. This was really productive because normally it's hard to cue and buffer, the good kind of buffering, while you're finishing a thought. But sometimes when somebody says, hey, explain the molten reactor, you can't just go, well, the molten reactor was a project at Oak Ridge. You have to kind of say who, what, when, where, how, and why, and then relate that, and so that's tough to do if somebody's not buffering. So I really appreciate JK helping out tonight and buffering and being a great moderator. And we should do this again. This was fun.
Tomorrow night. So tomorrow night, the beginning is more news wrap up of the week, and then we go into the music and see how far that goes. And I do want to do it. That was my first time last Friday ever doing something like that. I did do Kickstarter, but it wasn't like this. And I did raise the money for Kickstarter to go to Istanbul to talk about information.
We should. Oh, there's another one here.
Oh, look at that.
Updates on Imran Awan. When will we see the Awans again?
James Bin, $7.
Thank you very much. $7. Ooh, that's kind of a different number too. I like that. 7, lucky 7. So my lawsuit with the Awans is still going. I sent Tanya at DC District Courts another email today. Her mother died this summer. She's the person who is my interface if anything goes wrong and my electronic filings don't get in. Imran responded to me about a month ago in July. At the end of July, I responded back to him 2 days before the deadline. It didn't register. My response didn't register. Basically, I said, you know, here, you know the litany of things. You know, you've avoided service and etc. And it's still not registered in the DC courts, but she has been out. I can just say this, in DC, in August, in the courts, forget about it. That, you know, people are taking their vacations. It's bloody hot in DC. The Manafort trial would have been the exception, but now everybody's kind of coming back. So I do expect some more action on that case. I think now, to me, it's just so obvious the strokes, you know, I mean, the Awans were the DTRA or whatever you want to call this cabal spiring up on Congress on the House side. They just were. I mean, the fact that they worked with McCain, they just were.
Breaking news, Alex Jones banned on Twitter. He was keeping him on for a while because Congress was putting some heat on Jack Dorsey or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
But since Alex did touch him, like, hey, he did something when he was walking by.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was.
banned him.
Yeah, I mean, I think Alex always is kind of a bull in a china shop. I mean, to be honest.
Okay, but you shouldn't be banned for doing that.
I'm not saying he shouldn't be banned.
Yeah,
I'm not. I agree he should have freedom of speech.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I think Alex should have freedom of speech.
But he does interrupt, and I didn't like yesterday. There's a lot of things. There's nobody who everyone agrees with 100%, okay?
Right.
Me, George, because you disagree with yourself sometimes.
Right.
And something you thought a year ago, you don't think now.
Right.
So no one exists like that. But I don't like when he interrupts. Like there was a good reporter asking questions of Marco
Right.
Rubio, but he kept interrupting. However, I understand his tactic because he really is being attacked. He's trying to provoke and get Rubio to do something. And Rubio said, I'll take care of you myself, trying to act macho. And then he pretended like he wasn't trying to say he would beat up Alex, but he did say that. Alex trolled him, or what else is it called? What is it called when you do that?
Yeah, well, I mean,
But he's doing that on purpose.
my manner with all the senators, and I've met a lot of the senators, I've met a lot of congressmen and so forth, is always very genteel. I always ask questions in a low tone of voice. I never make any threatening moves. I always say thank you very much.
You're awesome.
Right? I don't abuse the privilege that you're given up there, and I don't make a show out of it. I don't make a circus out of it. And what my issue with Alex is he tries to make a circus out of it. And,
All right.
Okay. Now
Here you
we're
go.
point counterpoint.
Here we go, point counterpoint.
Okay.
Because we don't see it the same,
Yeah.
but we're on the same frickin' team, okay?
Right.
Get that, on the good side.
Right.
Because it's clear who's on the bad side.
Right.
We don't always know who they are, but anyway, here we go. So I'm gonna say it here. This is what I think Alex is, okay?
Okay.
This will take me 2 minutes, okay? Give
Sure,
me 2 minutes.
that's
All right, so the book Night by Elie Wiesel, who was
K-N or just
Elie
N?
Wiesel, Elie Wiesel, who just died at 90, whatever.
Okay.
When he was in the concentration camps.
K-N-I-G-H?
W-I-E, Elie Wiesel.
Night. The book Night.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, the book, K-N-I,
G-H-T.
no, N-I-G-H-T.
N-I-G-H.
Night, like the dark night,
Okay.
being in the concentration
Okay.
camp and escaping. And it was 900 pages when he first wrote it. It was just for himself getting it out.
Okay.
And then it got edited down to like 160 pages or something. So a real short book. I taught it to my 8th graders when I taught middle school. And in the book, when they're on the train, they talk about this woman.
You
who
mean
was
train going to the concentration camp?
on the way to the concentration camp. So from the ghettos, so first they kills the teachers and the creative people, then they stick others in the ghetto to scare people, don't push back. And then they get them in the ghettos. And in the ghettos, they said, oh, we're just bringing you to a camp, a work camp. So it was always the frog slowly boiling and all that.
Right.
So he's on the train, and there was a woman who was screaming, fire, fire, I see fire. And they were like, shut up, because they're packed in this car. And her son was so embarrassed about her. But she had the vision of fire in the ovens, okay?
Yeah.
She,
So you're saying,
people
so
can
you're saying
tap into
Alex
it.
is the canary in the mine shaft.
He is, and I'm going to say one thing that I'm going to get a lot of pushback on, all right? Are you ready?
Sure.
Probably from George too. And I'm going to tell you, Book of Revelations and the end of the age, I'm going to tell you who I think what his personality is, okay?
Okay.
His personality, the type of personality he has,
Yep.
okay, is, but what was my last piece? Oh, so they didn't know anything about fire as they're going on the train. They didn't know it, but she's going, fire, screaming. They're like, shut up, lady. And she did it for hours.
Okay.
And then would calm down when she got tired.
Okay.
And she kept doing it, and they thought she was crazy. And she was envisioning so that's in the book.
We got the
Oh,
harbinger.
I was getting them back on.
Yeah, okay.
Alex Jones has a Peter-like, Apostle Peter-like personality. Okay, I'm hearing it, I'm saying it. His personality is like the Apostle Peter, and people would agree with that. It's Peter chopped off the ear. He's like, Jesus, where do I get him? Let me go, you know? And Jesus like, calm down, nonviolence for now. The seed, the mustard seed, has been planted 2,000 years ago. Well, Alex grew up understanding Jesus, knowing Christ, although he wasn't always that way. He wasn't always that way. So I'm saying,
Make sure that doesn't go away.
that is awesome. George is awesome. JK is awesome.
Okay,
Thanks.
okay.
Norman's here. You weren't there before. Thanks, Norman Smith. Go listen to his videos. Go to his channel, which I think is just Norman Smith, right? His channel, YouTube channel. But not born on Christmas Day. No, Jesus was not born on Christmas Day. My mother was.
All right,
And
let's
I
stick
was
with
supposed.
Alex
No,
on this.
someone just put that.
Okay.
I was supposed to be born on Christmas Day. My mother was, and she didn't want me to, so she pushed me out early.
Okay.
All right. So, so Alex Jones, I'm saying in the end of the age, Book of Revelations, his personality is Peter the Apostle, like that personality. You know, the go get him. That's his personality. George has a different personality. I have a different personality. The idea is to find out who's on the good team and who's not. And I say, Alex is, you are, I am. We're not sure about Mike Flynn.
Well,
You're thinking he might be. You know,
Well,
things like that.
my only issue is disruption. It's okay to be the 800-pound gorilla in your market, but just don't disrupt the chimps. Don't go after the chimps, and that's how I differ. You know, we are chimps compared to Alex Jones. There's no question about it. So we'll just leave it. We'll just leave it at that. If he doesn't engage in disruption, I have no problem with him. If he does, I have a problem with it. Because that's not really free speech. That's actually going after somebody else's free speech, right? Through intermediaries. So we'll.
And I don't like that either.
Yeah, he doesn't.
I don't like if he did that to George.
And I would have to prove that to you, but I would have to say with Persobic and Jason.
Someone just said that Owen Schroyer said that of course he's not with him anymore. Someone just said that on here, a comment. Someone said, of course he's not part of InfoWars anymore. He said former DC correspondent. Who knows?
Oh, okay. Well, he was when I was talking to him. So,
Thanks for Stevens Point, Wisconsin. Thanks from. $2 from Nathaniel
there.
Ritter.
Well, and you know who's from Stevens Point is the great guard from the Portland Trailblazers, Terry Porter, was from Wisconsin Stevens Point. Another place where the Al Capone had his rum running, I think, Wisconsin Stevens Point. Was it not? And this is the kind of the running theme also we have in the series, looking at the old hooch rat lines tend to become the same families that ended up running the drugs, and we're pulling up these rat lines that go all the way back, you know, to the 30s, which is it's just very, very interesting. So if you actually do your Wackenhut history and look at it, how the Wackenhut kind of set up this whole thing, and then went after any kind of journalists, anything that wrote against these families, and kind of protected them, and so forth, did intelligence work for them. It runs all the way through the drugs with the Wackenhuts, where Wackenhut says, hey, you know. J. Edgar Hoover, I can run drugs in Florida. We don't have to just do this hooch thing. We can do this thing. So then it turns into drugs being supplanted in all of our major cities from the old rum lines, and Block Island being one of them. The last case that Jenny worked on. She's the one who nailed it, Wackenhut, Pakistan. And they're just picking, in the same way Rockefeller brought in Chinese, right, to work in the mines, same way the cabal is bringing in the Pakistani ISI to run the rat lines here. Same thing, same thing. So what a, I think Marcus Conte killed himself. He shot himself. He had his one chance. We did the interview. Everyone now knew who he was. And then he did the fake Imran Awan interview, and that
His
killed him.
numbers are way down.
And that killed him. That killed him. He could have been He could have been somebody. He could have taken that chance where the limelight was on him. But then he did the fake Imran Awan interview, and then pew, went straight downhill. And I liked the way his eyes lit up when I said he worked for Mercer, and I forgot that Fifth Avenue wasn't Avenue in the Americas, Sixth Avenue. And he said, now Mercer's a really famous, family. They're a really important family. Weapons, Renaissance capital. Believe me, all those things that we talked about in New York with Skybridge Capital, purple shovels, Hogan Lovells purple shovels for the white phosphorus, for the depleted uranium, it's all coming back. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time.
Harry Ambrose said he could have been a contender.
He could have been a contender. Marlon Brando. Yeah, he could have been a contender. Wow, this has been a long...
Say it with your New York accent.
I could have been a contender. Yeah, I'm not going to say it. I can't do it.
Can you do an Alex Jones imitation? Where you
There's going to be camps everywhere. I'm tired of it. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of
no
it.
Mars camps.
I'm sick of it. That's my Alex Jones. It's like, I think the veins are just going to go,
Yes.
pop straight out. And I'm like, Alex, how do you work yourself up into that kind of histrionics every night? But it is.
He's on the spectrum. He can't.
Yeah.
He's on the spectrum. And he has to do that.
Yeah.
He's going to do that.
Yeah.
But he's on our team. He started organically.
No, I don't have a problem, Alex. If you promote my show like I'm promoting your show, thumbs up, brother. He's said my name a couple times on the show. He gave me the interview, and I just wasn't gonna, with
Mike
Cernovich, and I just wasn't gonna take it. I was just like, I'm
Norman
not.
Smith. In America, one has a right to be wrong. Free speech for all.
Yeah,
Because it's called freedom. You're free to be dumb. Freedom.
Okay. Yeah, no, and I agree with that. So I want to say that this is really a super format. This buffering, this moderator, in-person moderator. We got to do this again. This is really great because so much. I'm all about turnaround. And Mike Flynn talks about this operational tempo. The quicker you can turn information around. One of the things was when they would capture a hideout, a safe house. They'd go through everybody's papers in the team, and normally they'd have to send it away, and then they would lose a day or two before they could say, oh, the next safe house is over here. And in order to get the network, you really have to strike while the iron is hot. Well, he came up with this methodology for photographing everything and then wiring it here to the media interpretation. I think it's just down the street, Pennsylvania, this media interpretation lab, and these analysts would all go to work on it. And then they would immediately pinpoint where to go to the next place. And then they would have field operations, intelligence to operators to get to the next house. Sometimes they would do 10, 12 raids in one night. So hitting whole swaths of the network in one night. That's what I love about this, because you can really turn the information around. And then the corny comments, I can also not have to spend time, but I pick up the stuff like the Bundy thing. I really wanted to talk about that with Uranium One and the Deripaska. And I like looking at these things over a 20-year period of time. I don't like looking at a news story and saying, now we know that Oleg Deripaska met with Bruce Orr in 2015, right? And then a month later, now we know he met in 2014. And then a year later, now we know he met in 2013. I'd rather go right to saying, it was Operation Lodestar. It was 1995. They've been working together since then. It was a Defense Threat Reduction Agency that was involved in moving the HEU from Iran, from Iraq, from all these satellites of the Soviet Union. That's why Peter Strzok was chosen. And that's how he got into the FBI. And I like going immediately to the thing and then do the 20-year flight of the arrow rather than, this happened over here yesterday. And it's just like, and it really gets me with the press kids. Like, Where do you get that? Well, this thing, it's called Wikipedia. You can look it up yourself, and you can actually see that it's called Operation Lodestar right there. I mean, I didn't call it Lodestar. I knew there would be a giveaway word. I knew that there would be a giveaway word. And I said this, the same crew, Enron crew, right, that laundered all the money in Enron, it's the same crew now. And there were the key word back then was a rawhide. The key word for this one is going to be Lodestar. This is going to be Lodestar. It's going to be Operation Lodestar. We'll leave it right there. Anything you'd like to add other than, go to, for all the great work tonight, if you want to support all the great work tonight that JK has been doing as our moderator here on his volunteer time, you can go to GoFundMe and you can hit the little magnifying glass and then say Info Artist JK, all one word, Info Artist JK. Hit the return button and you will be able to donate directly to our moderator, our information artist in residence.
Thank you, and I missed an L for Cheryl, so I just put the L on there, so it's catching up.
Okay, 100 minutes. 100 minutes. Okay, that's long enough for any live stream. Thank you, everybody, from beautiful, the beautiful archives. It's such a so nice here at night.
Oh my God.
So nice here at night.
Give them that view. See if you can get closer to it.
Yeah.
To the pillars and everything.
Yeah, it's so pretty. And of course, every time I look at the Lone Sailor, I think of Macduff, where our series is inspired by somebody who was one heartbeat away, the son of the person Kennedy hired to knock the CIA into 1,000 pieces. So that's a beautiful thing. Every time I'm here, I think of that. I also think of Jenny. And again, Jenny, we love you. We know you're watching over us. Your work is still informing me every day. I don't know who she left the hard drives with or any of the information with, but she's left me with enough for the next year to report on. But she had Wacken Hut, Pakistan, in Rhode Island. She could have been, I mean, more I read Mike Flynn, I'm thinking I was wrong and Jenny was right with Mike Flynn.
All right, George.
No. I mean, every day I read him, I'm like, oh my God, because I didn't think he was calling out Iran. And maybe that's my ignorance because I just can't read every book. But what I wanted to hear from Mike Flynn was that they were supporting the Mujahideen. And I was not aware, I've never heard him publicly say that. I know that somebody else out there probably knew that, but I never had a comment or anything like that. But I was the one out there saying, no, this is the whole Graham Fuller thing. It's Iran, they're doing Mujahideen. Well, I found the book today, and sure enough, he's the one who's saying, with high-end, sophisticated technology, phones, Iridium phones, maps, like these portable little readouts where you can see where the enemy is, these little PC, hardened PCs that you can take in the field, Quds Force air support, intelligence, satellite help, and so forth. All the things your Awans were doing. And I couldn't figure out, if you knew that, why aren't you saying anything about the Awans? Unless the Awans is it was a classified operation. I think I said that. I said, why wouldn't Mike Flynn have called this out if he was sitting in the Trump campaign that whole time? Why wouldn't he have called this out? Why would he have not declared the Russia money, the $600,000 in Russia money? Why would he have not declared his involvement in IP3? Why would he have done the meeting with the real crazy Qatar Airlines meeting with the Qatari investment fund at Trump Tower? How would he have not known? These guys are coming out tomorrow. The CIA guy and the FBI guy are coming out with their supposed database tomorrow about how Trump Tower was hacked. How wouldn't Mike Flynn know about that, being a SIGINT guy for 33 years? Right? There was a lot of questions. Go ahead. What's
that girl said best live stream ever.
I think this is the best live stream ever because it's content rich, and I love content rich. I love the buffering. This is kind of like having a second brain. This is great. Well, you're more than a second brain. You're double brain.
Oh, thank you. Information literacy. Yeah. That's our standard that we're held to. Accuracy, accessibility. Sometimes it's accurate, it's context, it's everything, but we don't have access to it. Right there. Right there. Yeah. That's just all about access. Double A, double C, double R.
And
right there.
And I wanted to say something else about access. Thank you for reminding me of that. Some people say, well, what's the difference between you being here in front of the National Archives where the information is, and H.A. Goodman doing a thing in his grandmother's basement? What's the difference? Why is yours so much better? I mean, it's prettier, right? But why is yours so much better? Because people have walked up to us right here and said, hey, you're those guys. I got some information for you. A CIA guy walked up to me right over here one day. We've had
scientist woman,
the gal, yeah,
a scientist from California.
Yeah,
and she was the one who cried for 3 days when Trump was elected,
Yeah.
and her boyfriend slowly brought her along, and she said, I was so ignorant, or whatever, however she said it. She now understands. So the veil is lifting. That's another thing, the Great Awakening worldwide. Jenny and I talked about this. Let me just say this one.
Okay.
So the Great Awakening is from the perspective of people awakening to the truth. And then Jenny also, the other way is God's lifting the veil. So it's both directions, right? For the people awakening and God lifting the veil. You can see it either way.
And one thing you notice I'll do when I have a prop, when anything kind of noisy comes into my world, I immediately co-opt it as a prop for our to explain things. So we have the fire truck explaining the Club K container weapons. International 811. 811 is a national 911 call, basically.
Because the size is like a Club K.
It's about the size of a Club K container, and the siren should be going. These could be nuclear, right? And then when the ambulance goes by, you immediately think of the drug business, and you think of Operation Cassandra. When I think of the kids skateboarding, if you've been out there, out in the Navy Memorial, it's a map of the world, right? So I think of two things. I think of the skateboarding, I think of Club K, and I think of Maersk. I think of the Maersk ships taking the Club K containers, right? Going all over the world. So anytime you see the skateboard now, you'll think, there's a Maersk ship full of Club K containers, right? Skating all over the world right now as we speak. Like, you can imagine them doing that there. That's actually a representation of what's actually happening in the world. We still have, my point here is this loophole still exists. This national security risk hole still exists. It didn't go away, right? Mike Pence didn't resign today. He still runs the Naval Observatory and all the observation center up there. He still has all the intelligence. So does Joe Biden, and so does everybody else in the little Lodestar cabal. It's going to be the Lodestar cabal from now on until Operation Lodestar comes out. These are immediate reminders, and so by being on site and actually saying to President Trump, we're here for day 70?
Oh,
One?
yeah.
72 days?
Maybe?
We had a couple days where we did live streams, but 72 days. Anything?
I think we should end it with Jenny and the archives.
We should.
Declassify President Trump.
Yep.
And
Declassify.
Jenny's spirit is with us. She's the angel watching over us, saying that she's protecting us.
And she would have wanted these things declassified a long time ago. And so anyway, that's why we're here. That's why we're on site. And that's why we're not in our grandmother's basement.